Ladies and gentlemen, meet the 2013 Porsche Panamera GTS. The car that looks like a 911 ate too many carbs, and it really shows in the rear end, but it decided to run a marathon and kicked everyone's ass anyway. Porsche fans called it a betrayal. Other manufacturers in the luxury sedan marketplace called it a threat. Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Jaguar before the latest debacle, if Jaguar even exists anymore. And the rest of the world just kind of said, wait, that's a Porsche? But let's be fair. Under that unique design, and I'm going to call it unique, GTS has a naturally aspirated 4.8 liter V8, pushes out about 430 horsepower. The engine sounds amazing, and every time you get in the Panamera and you hear that beautiful naturally aspirated V8, it makes up for any shortcomings that some people might call the design, especially the rear end. It's also the last of its kind before Porsche started adding turbos and forced induction and hybrids, kind of took over the market. So I think it's a special car. It's like that one friend that's still holding on to that BlackBerry, won't get that iPhone, but it still works, and there's still enough analog feel to it to make it special. So today we're going to look into a little bit of the history of the Panamera, what the driving experience is like, specifically for the GTS, and the overall personality of the car. It's kind of a sports sedan, trying to be everything at once, and it may just have pulled it off. It's kind of an awkward middle child for Porsche, but I think it's a special car, and I hope you guys enjoy this. All right, before we delve into the history, I'm going to get the one-liners out of the way because I have a whole list of them here. We all know, going back to a famous Top Gear episode with Mr. Clarkson himself, I want to say he referred to it as the Elephant Man. There was a lot of controversy around the rear end styling of this car. The front, yes, it looks like a 911. The original Series 1, especially the lower end models, were pretty questionable. I personally think the GTS and the 2013 refresh really made the car quite unobtrusive. I won't call it beautiful, but it's not offensive like the earlier cars. I think a lot of it also has to do with the spec. So let's get them out of the way. The Porsche Panamera. The rear end looks like a 911 melted in the sun. The Panamera's rear is like a mullet. Business in the front and a questionable decision in the back. The Panamera's rear end looks like a 911 got stung by a bee. It's the kind of rear end you only love because you're already inside the car and you can't see it. And my personal favorite, the Panamera's back end looked like someone hit copy and paste on a 911, then accidentally clicked the stretch to fit page feature. I think to better understand the development and the history of the Porsche Panamera, we have to go way back. No, not that far back. Not that far back. In a lot of ways, the Porsche Panamera is the spiritual successor to the famous Porsche 928. Personally, one of my favorite Porsches of all time. It was unveiled at the 1977 Geneva Motor Show. It was originally intended to replace the 911 as Porsche's flagship. The concept was a luxurious, comfortable front-engine GT car for long-distance cruising, but with Porsche handling and performance with 4 seats. Now, I don't know who you're fitting in the back of a 928, maybe small children, but it was a radical departure for Porsche. It was a water-cooled front-engine V8 with a rear transaxle and a hatchback design with 4 seats. Fast forward to 2009, where Porsche revealed the Panamera at the 2009 Shanghai Auto Show. The concept was not to replace the 911, but to expand Porsche's lineup into the luxury sedan market, competing with cars like the Mercedes S-Class, BMW 7 Series, Audi A8, and so on. It was aimed for people who wanted Porsche performance but needed the practicality of four-doors, rear seats, and luggage space. And I'll get to it further on in the video when we do the driving impressions, how the rear seats are phenomenal in this car and kind of remind me of flying in a Learjet. Anyway, it was designed to complement the success of the Cayenne SUV. Little did we know in 2009 the entire market would be taken over by SUVs, but Porsche was proving it wasn't just a sports car maker anymore. It can compete with all the other big German auto manufacturers. Today, we're primarily going to focus on the history of the first generation Panamera, which ran from 2009 to about 2016. As I mentioned before, it debuted at the 2009 Shanghai Auto Show. It was initially offered with V6 and V8 engines, the most powerful being the Turbo S, which was a 4.8 liter turbocharged V8. They featured Porsche's PDK dual clutch transmission, which gave them a key performance advantage. In 2011, Porsche introduced the Panamera S Hybrid, making it Porsche's first hybrid production car. This was all a precursor to the Taycan, folks. There was a mild facelift in 2013, which also introduced the Panamera SE Hybrid, which I don't know much about. It was the first plug-in hybrid luxury sedan in the world at the time, according to what I'm reading here. And it also introduced the Panamera Executive, which was a extra rear seat space. The name Panamera was inspired by the Carrera Panamerica, a famous Mexican endurance race. So let's specifically talk more about the car I am driving today, which is the Panamera GTS, and personally my favorite, even over the Turbo, and I'll give you some reasons why. Let's talk a bit more about the 2013 GTS. Now, they have revived that namesake in the current generation, but I've never driven one and I don't know enough to compare the two, so we'll leave that one out of this conversation. But the original GTS was kind of a hybrid model and not the traditional hybrid we're talking about. It was slotted right in between the Turbo and the S model. And what Porsche did was take that beautiful V8 from the S and they revised the intake system, the cams with additional lift. They put stiffer valves, springs from the Turbo model, and it boosted the power up to about 430 horsepower versus 400 in the S. It also had the larger front brakes from the Turbo and a really cool adjustable 3-piece spoiler, 19-inch wheels. It included adaptive anti-roll bars, the front fascia and sport chrono pack with its launch control function from the Turbo. And the GTS exclusive stuff, it's not a lot, but it's the engine upgrades, embroideries, transmission, stability control programming. So it was a souped up Panamera S. And the little touches added from the Turbo, I think, make it look, despite the famous rear end that people either love, no, they don't love it. They put up with it or hate it. I think that's a better way to put it. Makes it much more palatable. And I think it's actually, in the right color combo, a really cool looking car. Performance on the GTS was impressive for the time. It's impressive for today. I think we're a little jaded nowadays with Tesla Plaid times and face melting EV 0 to 60s, but this was pure analog V8 performance. And it did 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds, quarter mile. And I've seen some say 12 and a half, some say 12.7, about 108 to 110 miles an hour. Really, really impressive for a big, heavy 4,200 pound 4-door sedan. A lot of that was helped by that amazing dual clutch transmission, which I'll talk a little bit more about in driving impressions. To top it all off, you had the famous Porsche handling. According to Car and Driver at the time, the 300-foot skid pad, it measured almost a full G. And again, that is crazy for a 4,200 pound, quite large 4-door Luxo sedan. So now we're going to get into the fun part, my driving impressions and a little bit of the ownership of a Panamera GTS. Not me personally, but my good friend who owns this car. Driving the GTS is a bit of a secret because there's a lot of love and hate with the Panamera. Everybody knows the Turbo is a monster. Arguably a ugly rear end that a lot of people made fun of at the time, but it's grown better with age. I won't say fine wine, but it's palatable. The GTS is a secret because it's a sweet spot. They didn't make a lot of them. And I mentioned before that they've revived the GTS model in the new generation. But everyone buys SUVs now, so you don't see them. The V8. The V8 is incredible. And I say this as someone who's driven a lot of fast cars. The V8 in this car is magic. Now. And it's hard for me to put this in words. You'll hear a little bit of background V8 as I'm talking. There's something about a naturally aspirated German V8 that sounds like no other car. I love the valves that open on the exhaust. This car has an incredible stereo in it. It'd be fine if you ripped it out because I could just listen to that V8. That's all the music I need. And I'm a music guy. The handling, it's very solid. It's very competent. It's a heavy car. So you do feel the weight. But Porsche has managed to over-engineer a way to make it feel tossable. The car is a tank, but it's so planted. It gives you a very, listen, I'm in charge. I can do what I want in this car. Until you try and kind of like creep through a parking lot. That's another story. Low speed handling is somewhat tricky in this car. The PDK is brilliant when you're at speed. When you're driving quickly, not even driving quickly, driving at normal road speeds. It's great. It's instant quick shifts, Formula One shifts, sharp, precise, but at low speeds, oof, it's jerky, it's clunky. It feels like you're driving a manual car and you're about to stall it. It's the best way I can describe it. My friend that owns the car says you kind of just get used to it and you don't notice it after a while, but it was definitely noticeable the several times that I've driven this car. The interior, well, you don't just get buttons, you get the constellation of buttons. It's like Porsche rated NASA spare parts bin from the 70s. And we'll take all of these. Thankfully, they're real buttons. They're not that haptic feedback crap. But this GTS, I'm assuming at the time, was when it was new, was a very, very expensive car. And it's got just about every single option on it. But there's still a bunch of blank buttons. And I'm like, how much more did you need to spend to fill out all these buttons? It's a very Porsche thing. I get it. The back seats, forget calling it sedan. It's like a private jet with license plates. You don't just sit back there. You lounge. You have two beautiful captain's chairs. It's very comfortable. And I know the owner of this car has taken long road trips with his family and said it's just like it gobbles miles like nothing. So let's talk a little bit about the ownership. Well, specifically the air suspension. You know, I think in most cases with every vehicle with air suspension, when it works, it's magic, it's comfortable, brilliant, adaptive. But when it fails, oof, it's rough. And it can break your back and your bank account. And these parts aren't cheap. It's Porsche. If you take it to the dealer, Porsche labor is going to destroy you. I recommend, like my friend that owns this vehicle has found a very, very qualified independent technician who specializes in exotic cars, Porsches, Ferraris, McLarens, all that kind of stuff. And while it's still not cheap, when you do need to fix something on this car, it's manageable. But as I say, you got to pay to play. Doing some more research, a couple other common problem areas. I've heard that they can have coolant leaks, and I'm not sure if that's on the 4.8 V8 or the V6 cars. Jerky PDK, which I mentioned, the air suspension, which is the big nightmare. I've read some stuff about infotainment glitches, but his has been rock solid, and it's actually pretty innovative and impressive for being 12 years old at this time. So what's my verdict? For what it's worth. Driving the GTS is pretty magical. Just the sound of that V8 alone makes the car worth owning. It's a rock solid handler. The interior is a very nice place to be if you can get over the 747 column of buttons, but I kind of like it. I'm a geek for tons of buttons like cars of the 80s and 90s, so I'm okay with that. It's part sports car, part Learjet, and kind of a rolling contradiction of a 911 and a luxury tour, but I digress. If you can get past the PDK transmission that literally trolls you at low speeds, you think there's something wrong with it. And if you could handle the air suspension, could possibly nuke your bank account. You know, this car isn't for the faint of heart, but I think it's a magical car. And if you can find one of these that has been well taken care of, has a good detailed service history, and you're not scared of a little pain if something does happen, which it always will, the GTS is actually pretty special. As I said in the intro, it's the last of an old era of naturally aspirated power no forced induction, no hybrid systems. It's got enough modern in it to make it feel like a modern car. I mean, it is a modern car. But when you're behind the wheel and that V8 is singing, this car isn't just luxury transportation. It's Porsche. It's Porsche magic. And you got room for 3 friends. Thanks everyone so much for watching. Feels good to be back in the swing. I didn't beg once all video, but throw me a like and a subscribe. It would help out a lot. I'm motivated again. It's been a rough year, but I'm back. So thank you all, and we'll see you real soon with another car review.